What's good, peeps? Kevin here, and today I'm going to be unboxing a guitar that my friend Danny sent me. This was actually just going to be thrown out, so it's pretty cool that I get to just play around and do whatever I want with this guitar and hopefully come up with something cool in the end. So this is a really cool piece. So this is almost like a star guitar, like it's very 90s, very Rock of Love. This is like its own standalone piece. I almost feel bad painting over it. I don't even know what's wrong with it, but have to do this one justice. If you guys want to see how I went from this to this illustration of lightning that I did on this guitar that I think fully encompasses the look and feel of what the guitar is, and it really just kind of brings an added element to this, completely finishing off the piece. Now if you want to see how I created this project, stay tuned to find out, only on Create Kev. And to start this project off, we're gonna whip out the tools. So there was a power button and another button towards the bottom, which was gonna impede with my design. So I wanted to take those out and flatten them so that I had more surface area to paint on. I originally was gonna paint this kind of cool punk rock kind of tattoo of a feel, but I realized there wasn't that much surface area on the guitar, and the less surface area, the less detail you can do, and it was just gonna be very painstaking. I really liked how the lightning turned out when I was painting it, so we're just gonna simplify my original idea and do lightning all over this guitar. Now how I'm gonna get rid of those openings where the buttons were is I'm just gonna tape off that back section, screw that back plate back onto the guitar, and then I'm going to use Gorilla Glue as my filler, and I'm using the expanding kind so that it'll really grip the back of that guitar and the surface, so that once it dries and expands, I can come in with my X-Acto blade, cut that off so that I don't have to waste my time sanding. And if there's any more holes, I'm just going to use more Gorilla Glue so that this is very sealed off, and when we sand it down, it'll give us something for our wood filler to be able to grip onto. I'm going to come in and hand sand just to make sure that everything is flat, and I'm feeling that surface as I'm sanding to make sure that everything is level and flat so that none of this sticks out once we paint over it. And once that's all sanded down flat, I can come in with my wood filler here and then start to just kind of mush that into all those little holes and crevices. I'm going to have to go over this about 2 different times to make sure that I've really got a nice flat surface. I'm actually coming over this with a trowel to make sure that all of those little holes are filled and that everything is completely flat. And now that that's dried, I can come in and I'm going to start by hand sanding this to really knock down any of those big pieces. I'm going to come in with my power sander here so that I can make sure this is very flat, and then I'm going to come in and go in by hand and just start to feel that so that I can make sure that none of that is raised and all of those bubbles have completely gone away. And now that we've got all of our sanding and all of that dust and the nastiness is out of the way, I can just wipe down my guitar so that we can start our next step, which is going to be taping off these edges. I could have painted everything black, but I actually really liked this kind of white pinstripe that is around the edges, so I'm going to make sure to keep that. And what I'm doing with the tape is just going about 8 or 9 inches, tacking down both edges, and then swiping it so that everything is sealed. This way you won't get any creases and everything will be nice and level. To ensure that I have all of my edges completely sealed off and so that I don't have any bleed out to save time later, I'm actually going to come in with a clear coat over this so that it'll actually fill any gaps that are in that tape, and then once I peel that off later, you'll see how much nicer and cleaner and crisp of a line that I have by actually painting this clear coat on first. Now this part is so satisfying for me to see that all of that filling and sanding was completely worth it to see this go completely flat where there was that button before. So this is actually going to soak up a little bit of paint, so I'm going to have to coat this area about 3 or 4 times. But I'm going to be painting that entire background area with a flat black color so that I will be able to paint over it and it'll give me a little bit of a grip. This is almost like a primer stage because painting over kind of a plasticky area is definitely not fun. The colors just don't blend out as nicely. This is also just going to help flatten out that surface because we're going to have to cover up those holes that we just filled in so that I won't have to worry about that when I'm doing my more intricate work, which is going to be that lightning. And so I'm going to be going over this 2 different times so that we can make sure that we have a nice flat surface to be able to paint onto. Now I want to show the painting process, and I'm going to keep this in real time because I want to explain the steps and how I'm achieving this lightning. So the first step is going to be painting in your background. When you're thinking about lightning, you want to think about it almost like a neon sign. So your color is going to fade into the center, which is going to get lighter, and it almost will give a spotlight feel. And then you're going to have a white stroke in the center so that it really makes it look light and luminous. And now we're going to start by painting in our gradient. So when you're looking at lightning, it actually looks like an explosion at the top, and then it kind of festers out into those nice lines. And so the tricky part about doing gradients in acrylic is that acrylic dries really fast, and you really want a lot of blending time so that you can keep working with it, so you get that nice gradation from the white to the blue. And so sometimes I'll just spray as I'm going. But what I really like to do is once I've got that gradient semi down, I'll take a bigger brush and start to really work them into each other so that those will be nice and blended and buffed out. And now I'm going to start by creating that kind of outer glow that you'll see around the lightning lines. So essentially what I'm doing is just taking some white and dragging that into that blue, just like we did with our gradient above, but I'm going to be doing this where my lines are going to go, and then fading it out so that once we put in our white lines, this will really start to give that glowing effect. And once I've got my product down, I just come in with a nice dry brush and start to blend that out even further so that we've got a nice gradient from our white to the black. And if you see that you've buffed it out too much, you can actually come in with more white and start to pump up that outer glow so that you can make it just a little bit brighter. Now I'm just going to punch up that white in the corner a little bit so that really starts to look like an explosion. Now I'm going to start by painting in the line work. So I'm just taking my detail brush that's kind of a pinstriping brush, and I'm just going to start by painting in that first line. So the nice part about lightning is that they're very jagged and not exact, so this can just be fun and doesn't have to be too precise. I'm just going to go in where we put in those gradiated lines and just start to spider out some of these white lines to really give that lightning effect. And now that I'm completed with that illustration on one corner, it's time to repeat. So essentially I'm just going to be taking that lightning illustration and going over the whole face of this guitar. And the funny thing about how fate kind of worked out with this is that it is kind of in keeping with the theme, since it is an electric guitar with the lightning and the electricity kind of feel of it all. I really liked that harkened back to what the object is. It really does kind of work all in tandem with each other. And now the only difference in this corner that I'm going to do is I actually kept those 3 different buttons that are kind of like levers that I don't even know what they do, but they definitely change the settings on this. So essentially I'm just going to be kind of making the lightning look like it's pinging off of those 3 different buttons, creating an outer glow to give a little bit more of that visual interest. And now that I'm completely done with the illustration on the surface, I'm going to start by clear coating that so that everything is protected and that everything is the same finish. I'm going to be going in with my Liquitex Clear High Gloss because I really want this to have that kind of automotive glass-like feel to this, and I could go in with a pouring epoxy, but you can get bubbles, it's a lot of drying time, and you can get dust in that, so this is just a lot easier, where if you do 3 to 4 different coats on this, you won't get any streaks, and the nice part about this is that it's crystal clear and it won't yellow over the years. And now this is one of the most exciting parts for me, is taking off that tape to reveal that almost factory-like edge that we took all of that time to clear coat so that we made sure that none of that paint would bleed through. And so this just gives you that really nice crisp edge. And as an artist, it's so nice to see when you have that really, really gross edge that just has that unfinished paint, to take this off and reveal what it actually is going to look like and have that nice white pinstripe where you can basically see the light at the end of the tunnel of the project, and it just finishes everything off, making it look so crisp and completely finished off. And now we can take our buttons that kind of move those levels on there, and then we're going to put those back on where they were so that we can kind of show off this cool outer glow that we now painted on. And with that being the last step, we can now call this project complete. And another project complete. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Now, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's get this video out there so we can get this channel growing. Now, if you guys want to see some detail shots or see some other projects, go and hit up the Instagram at CreateKev. And if you want to go check out the website, that is createkev.com. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.